Now, I think it's safe to say that for most dividend-focused, income-focused investors out there, monthly paying dividend stocks or ETFs are definitely a fan favorite across the board. Now, this is especially important if you are a dividend-focused investor that's looking to use your dividends to buy more different dividend-paying stocks and ETFs on a consistent basis to snowball your portfolio larger and larger over time, like I am. But just like anything else, not every single monthly paying dividend stock is created equal. Now in this video, we're going to go through one of my favorites, that I would even potentially consider one of my favorite monthly paying dividend stocks across the entire market. The stock I'm talking about is ticker symbol MAIN or Main Street Capital. And if you want to learn more about what this stock has to offer, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. I just finished my brand new dividend investing ebook where I share exactly how I went from zero to now over 7 figures invested, and also on how I earned more than $6,000 per month in dividends. I also finished my custom dividend tracker that you can use to track your dividend income progress on an ongoing basis. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. So first off, just to go over some of the basics, Main Street Capital is a Houston-based business development company, and it says right here on their website, Main Street Capital has helped over 200 private companies grow or transition by providing flexible private equity and debt capital solutions. Privately held businesses turn to us because we are Main Street, not Wall Street. We build relationships and tailor transactions to meet the unique needs of our portfolio companies and their owners. They then go on to explain that they are pretty much a middle-of-the-road, one-stop shop capital solution for companies looking for capital, entrepreneurs looking for capital, etc. And right here on Main Street Capital, what's pretty neat is that you can actually see every single company within their portfolio, and they have exposure to quite a few companies as of right now. Now, I personally came across Main Street Capital years and years ago, probably around 2018, 2019, and at first glance, Main Street Capital seems like a decently high-yielding monthly paying dividend stock that seemed to offer pretty much everything I'm looking for when initially evaluating a stock. Now, because Main Street Capital is a part of the industry that it is, meaning a business development company, they are able to offer a substantial higher dividend yield than a lot of other companies might be able to offer right off the jump. Now, to be more specific, with Main Street Capital currently trading where it is, just under $46 per share, Main Street Capital is offering currently a 6.27% forward dividend yield. Now, Main Street Capital also has a relatively safe dividend, and we're going to go over all the dividends Main Street Capital has paid historically in a second here. But according to Simply Safe Dividends, the dividend is a 62 on the safe score, which of course is not the safest dividend necessarily across the entire stock market, but for a business development company that's offering this high of a yield, I think the dividend safety is pretty decent. Now, the next thing I want to go through is some of the key metrics for Main Street Capital, and keep in mind these are all just going to be estimated. But the current payout ratio for Main is around 65%, which is very low for business development companies. The forward payout ratio is 69%. Net debt to capital is 41%, which is a little bit high. Main has a 16-year dividend streak without reduction, so the dividend is obviously at least relatively safe. During the last recession, Main Street Capital maintained their dividend, which is also impressive. And looking at Main's dividend growth, there has been some dividend growth over time, although it has been a little bit slower, but you are getting a much higher yield right off the jump. Now, another thing that's absolutely awesome about Main Street Capital is that they often pay what we call special dividends. Or right here on Simply Safe Dividends, it says special payouts. Now, just to give you an idea of what these special payouts have looked like historically, last year in 2023, in March, there was a 17.5-cent special dividend. So again, these are dividends on top of the normal dividends, which like I showed you is already very, very high at around a 6 or 7%. Plus in June, there was a 22.5-cent dividend, 27.5 cents back in September, then 27.5 cents back in December, and then up and coming very soon here in March, a 30-cent payout, which has brought a lot of attention and a lot of new investors into Main. But speaking of Main's dividends, dividend history, and of course these special dividends that have been paid pretty consistently over the last few years, if you look right here, all the more dull lines are all their normal monthly dividends, and those little bit darker lines are the special dividends on top of that. So if you've owned shares of Main like I have, you were definitely given some nice gifts and some nice special dividends over the last years. But looking at Main's dividends historically, you can see that there hasn't been all that much dividend growth like we talked about earlier, although with all those special dividends, investors are not complaining one bit. Now, if you've never looked any deeper into Main, I know you're probably thinking, you're saying, well, it's a BDC, they pay a pretty high yield. Yeah, they pay some special dividends, but there's no way this single stock has also grown over time. And honestly, I wouldn't even blame you for thinking that, but that is not the case with Main. And that's what makes this stock honestly so unbelievable as far as total performance over time. Since 2007, Main is up around 254%, and again, that's not even including the dividends or the special dividends on top of that. Now, Main has grown consistently over time, although since around 2020, the growth has been a little bit slower. But funny enough, when I first bought shares of Main Street Capital years ago, just knowing the nature of this company and knowing how it works, I never really thought that this single stock was going to grow all that much to begin with. But that being said, it's been great to have exposure to Main Street Capital in my portfolio because I'm currently up a ton in the shares, not to mention I've earned a good amount of cash flow in dividends every single month since I've held on to the shares. Now, what's even crazier than all that is that if you stack up Main Street Capital next to the S&P 500, which is obviously the gold standard, and the S&P 500 side note has had a crazy run over the last year. S&P is up around 27.4%, and this is total return, so this is price return plus dividends included. Now, over the same time frame, Main is up 23.5%, so S&P outperformed Main just by a tad. Now, on a little bit longer time frame, the 3-year time frame, we see that S&P is up 33.02% total return, which honestly in 3 years, that's not horrible. I'm generally pretty happy with anything around 8 to 12% minimum. But of course, let's be honest, annually, I would love to make even more than that. But in the last 3-year time frame, Main Street Capital is up 56.36% in the last 3 years. Now in the 5-year time frame, S&P 500 did take the lead at 81.45% total return. Like I said, S&P has been on a crazy rip. And of course, it's no secret that S&P has been doing great over the last 5 years or so. But still, Main Street Capital at 69.01%, not too far behind. And what's crazy is that over certain time frames, Main Street Capital has actually outperformed the S&P 500, which is honestly hard to believe. Now, is Main Street Capital a single stock that I would want to make up a large portion of my portfolio? And is Main Street Capital better than the S&P 500? Well, the answer to both those, in my opinion, is of course not and of course not. Main Street Capital is a single stock that is pretty well diversified because of the nature of it, and I definitely love having shares of Main in my portfolio. Now, that being said, as time goes on, I'm more interested in buying into diversified ETFs that pay dividends and grow dividends over time. But for those investors out there that are searching for a little bit higher yield, but aren't really willing to carry the risk that quite frankly a lot of the other single stocks often carry when it does come to high yield, well, in that case, Main Street Capital could be a great single stock to look into, and I definitely recommend it. For investors that are currently building out their portfolio like myself personally, I am actively building out a portfolio of different monthly paying dividend stocks and ETFs, and on a monthly basis when I actually get paid all the dividends, I am currently reinvesting that money back into more dividend paying stocks and ETFs. And this is exactly how the dividend snowball takes place, the power of compounding. As you continue to invest and reinvest all the dividends along the way, you're going to at some point see exponential growth throughout your portfolio, which hopefully sometime in the future can even pay for your bills and then maybe your entire lifestyle. So by getting these dividends paid to me on a monthly basis versus a quarterly basis like we see here with Apple, for example, I am then able to reinvest the money and get it to work even quicker than that of a quarterly paying ETF or stock. Now, a caveat with that is the fact that it's going to be a marginal increase on whether or not you get something reinvested, say 60 days faster. But either way, I enjoy getting paid more frequently, even if it's the same difference, because I can get that money back into the market a lot quicker. But lastly, now I want to hear from you guys down below. When it comes to Main Street Capital, do you currently have any shares of Main in your portfolio? And if so, how many shares do you have? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.